Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to part 2 of the KNKL show 314. My name is Keenan Lafferty, and we are working on real-time finishing touches. Let's go ahead and get back into it. We are working with Mika and Mocha. We just finished putting some line colors on Mika, right? Kind of livening up our piece, getting it ready for a little something we like to call overpainting. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. The next step in the saga of this piece, it is going to be drawing to a close finally. And what the heck are these layers? Are these, wait, oh, those are the actual characters. Very important ones. We don't want to disregard those. Let's go ahead and create a new layer. We're jumping right into it, okay? We're jumping right back into it. Create a new layer. It's called OP. You want to know why? No, not because it's overpowered. Like, oh shoot, who's overpowered in Overwatch right now? Not overpowered like Mei or Roadhog or McCree, but just overpainting. Just overpainting. And we're going to be having some fun because overpainting is a very special part of our piece. And that is basically where you begin to lay down the law. You lay down the law and you can paint whatever the heck you want, okay? But we're going to be focusing on our characters. We're going to be focusing on characters. And this is a very fun and easy part of the piece, okay, guys? I don't want you guys to stress out about this because you've already done all the hard work, okay? And I'm just jumping right into it. So I'm going to do it a little bit without commentary first. I just want you to watch what I'm doing, and then I'm going to explain what I'm doing, okay? And then I totally forgot what I was going to distract you with while I was doing this, so maybe I will just explain. Oh yeah, but you've already done all the hard work, okay? So you are just literally, like, my thumb is always on the Alt key at all times. And what this does is it allows you to very quickly pull up your, look at that, the eyedropper tool. Now, why would we need that? Well, because we're just grabbing colors that are already existing. We're grabbing colors that are already there, okay? And that's why overpainting is such a fun and relaxing part of the piece, because now you're just going in there and cleaning things up. Now, how do you go about cleaning things up? Well, there's a couple things that you want to keep in mind. And there's a couple points where you may actually go in and do a little bit of adjusting to your colors. For instance, I want to have this hair, right? We've got a piece here and we've got a piece here, right? But I want this piece to kind of come forward in terms of like our values. So I want it to cast a shadow back here, okay? So I could do this. I could just grab this line color and just kind of like add some shadow and kind of blend it like this, right? But that gives us a little bit of the muddiness that we're trying to avoid right here. This gray color, not so good, not so good. So let's go ahead and modify that color. Let's go ahead and get in there and let's saturate it a little bit. Saturate and lighten a little bit. And let's drop that new color in there. That will allow us to get rid of a little bit of that muddiness and give us something that we like. Give us something that we like a lot. Now, I normally try to, what's the word? There's a couple different styles that I like to render my pieces out with. Now this one, I really wanted to focus on having more of a cell shaded style. So what that means is the difference between saying, okay, well, let's have this color and then it will slowly kind of fall off, right? It'll slowly kind of fall off and do like one of these blending type of modes, right? Whereas, like that's one thing that I usually like to do. That's usually when I'm rendering more of a realistic sort of style. But for this, I specifically wanted to have hard edges. I want to have hard edges. So right here, we'll go in there and we'll say, okay, hard edge for that part. Okay, that looks much better. Now here's a really cool way to sort of have like a transition, make your transitions look really cool while not overdoing it or losing your cell shaded quality. And that is having a saturated transition. Now this goes into the color boomerang, which I've also taught you guys about. If you're curious about that, then click up here or down here somewhere. It'll take you back to the color boomerang. Actually, no, don't. Screw that. I'm not putting that link up because that tutorial specifically was actually not that good. I could have done the color boomerang way better, and I can actually teach you much better right here. Okay, so the color boomerang is basically allowing a very saturated color to exist between your shadows and your lights, okay? But notice how the shadow right here, the shadow is a little, well, actually it's not super desaturated, right? It's kind of like right here, right? But then the light is also kind of desaturated. But right here, see how we're like moving over? We're actually like giving it a lot more saturation in that area. Now, I like to do this stuff because it just looks really cool. It looks really nice. And it happens in real life too. So don't be Don't be too afraid of thinking that you're breaking the rules, because it actually does happen in real life too. So we're going to be adding a little bit of this kind of stuff going in. A little bit of our color boomerang action going in there. Okay? To give us a nice cel-shaded but animated look. Okay? Now I really want that to exist like right here. Maybe a little bit of that pink there. A little bit there. That's going to just give us a really fun kind of pop color. Pop-O color. Okay, now I'm going in there, kind of cleaning this stuff up. Okay, I'm going to kind of make this line. Do I want this line to be hard? I guess I can. Sure, that looks good. That looks good. Now I'm just going in there and I'm just kind of repainting a couple of these lines. Like really allowing things to be, I don't want to completely erase my lines. Now I need to fight against myself a little bit here because I normally always want to paint out my lines. I want to make it so that way they don't necessarily exist. But in this piece, I think that having the lines there actually gives it a little bit more of a draw. It actually makes it look really nice. So, stuff like this. So see how I have like two lines that are together, but it sort of like represents a gradient. So we have our light color, our mid-tone color, and then we have our dark color. But notice how I'm not really bothering about going in there and like really like blending these things. I mean, you can if you want to. Let's see if this actually looks any better. So you can kind of do something like this where the shadow sort of blends to the edge, which I do sometimes. But overall, I just don't really like it. I want all of my shadows and my colors in this picture specifically to be very hard and like very deliberate strokes and lines in this. So think of it as like levels. So here's a good example right here. So we have level 1, which is our light, and then we have level 2, which is this mid-tone, and then we have level 3, which is right here. So that's more so the style that I'm going for, rather than having this all be blended and like smooth looking, rather than having like something like this, right? So it looks like that, and it's like a really nice like happy gradient kind of going back into nothing. Yeah, I'm not exactly going for that in this one. There can be some areas of like, I'm okay with it being like a softer edge, but in general, I want that edge to exist. Okay, so here's another example. Here's another kind of in between, right? So now we have those shadows, like those leveled shadows, but now they are behaving as, now the edges are a little softer, okay? But in general, I'm just kind of playing around here, This is what I do when I am painting real time. I'm always just kind of experimenting, trying to find what I want. And it doesn't always turn out perfectly the first time. Sometimes it does, but I've committed to myself that I am going to finish this right here with you guys right now, right? Get it to a point where I'm at least happy with it. Where I can post it at least. Because I really do want to post this. I'm actually really excited, and I'm excited to move on to the next piece, which is actually probably going to be another Mika Mocha thing. I'm thinking that I'm going to create like a line of fan arts for them, or, well, I mean, can you do fan art of your own character? Sure, why not, right? I'm going to create a line of fan art for them that I will be selling at an upcoming convention that I'm going to be attending in early next year, which I will give you guys some more details about that as it surfaces. But for now, not much to be said about that, okay? So right here, I'm actually going to take a little bit more of this blue. So notice I want a blue. This is something that I do all the time. So I don't grab the color of the sky, but rather I'm like, oh, hey, I like how this little like gray from this, like this overhanging thing is kind of sitting there. I'm gonna go ahead and grab that color. I want to kind of try that out in a couple of areas. I want to just add that in, say up here, kind of refine the edge of our character and kind of do one of these things. And I'm like, oh, that looks really nice. I like that a lot. So I love doing this type of stuff. And again, this all comes just from overpainting. So any color that you choose now. This is particularly helpful when you want to create punch colors. Like you really want your colors to stand out in some areas. This is the point where you can really get in there and say, okay, this is the exact color that I want to be there, right? The exact color that I want. Okay, so for this instance, I'm gonna go ahead and grab this purple. I want to throw that color in there, right? See how you can really easily just kind of throw that in, and it looks so awesome, so sick. in the words of Day 9. So let's go ahead and continue with that. Oh! Yeah, that looks good. That looks really good. Okay, I'm going to clean up these lines. Another thing that I'm doing here is I'm really just kind of cleaning up lines. Like, see how all these little artifacts are like in here? What you want to do is, they don't have to be perfect, but I really like to get in there and really distinguish like where the edge of this line is. Like, see how that little piece of the hair is kind of sticking out? Let's go ahead and grab the skin, just kind of trim that back. Trim this back. Okay, and that's basically all I'm doing here. So that way I still retain that cartoony kind of cel-shaded feel, but at least it's much cleaner, right? This eyebrow, boom, let's go ahead and trim that up. Ah, very, very nice, very nice. Okay, and again, thumb always on the Alt key, grabbing that hair, grabbing that skin. All right, just kind of trimming it into place, trimming it into place. And I really like using like super broad strokes. I don't know what it is about it, but it just feels so fun to just like get in there and just make really, really broad strokes. So yeah, try that out for yourselves. Okay, so I want to have like a really bright highlight on this headband here so we don't lose it. So look at that. I just grabbed that highlight, or I grabbed the skylight, and I just threw it in there. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, I'm going to kind of blend it in. And look at that. Now we have that headband is coming through much clearer because we changed the value. You see how before it was all kind of like blending into the hair, and then we made it lighter. Now you can see a clear difference. Clear difference. We changed the value. Change the value, change your life. Okay, that's the lesson for today. All right, so let's go in there and let's kind of clean up this face as well. I really feel like finishing up my pieces, it has a lot to do with cleaning up my faces. Cleaning up pieces, cleaning up faces is really all you got to worry about, because the rest of the body seems to just kind of fall into place. And let's be honest, like, a lot of people aren't going to be looking around your entire piece. They're going to be looking at your focal points, which we discussed in the previous episode, right? And that is the place of the highest contrast. So they're going to be looking here. They're going to be looking at Mika's face, and they're going to be looking at Mocha's face. And they'll be like, and then within that half second or quarter of a second, they're going to determine whether they like that piece or not. They're not going to be like, okay, well, let's examine the focal points, right? Let's say, okay, well, that's nice. Well, now let's look over here in the bottom left corner. Has that knee pad been properly rendered out? Look at how like nasty and like dirty those lines are. Ugh, so gross. I hate it, right? No, you don't need to worry about that. Think of it this way. As you get further away from your focal points, the less polish there needs to be. Let me say that again, okay? As you get further away from your focal points, as you get further away from this point, right, the detail and level of polish, you can have less here and less here. Now, this is just kind of a rule of thumb that I like to use. That way you don't stress out too much. That way you don't take too much time rendering out, like, say, every single wood grain in this barrel, right? You could do that. You could do that. However, and I actually do have a plan for how I'm going to do this, right? Instead of like getting in there and like rendering out every single little wood grain, like making it look like super hyper real. Don't do that, okay? I have a plan for how we're going to do that and make it look stylized and awesome. And I'll show you guys that in just a moment, okay? But first, let's kind of finish up cleaning up these lines. Now, you'll notice a big difference. Let's go ahead and take a look at the differences between here. Do you see how now we're getting to the point where our piece is really starting to take additional shape and our lines are becoming more clean, yet we're not losing what we loved about our original piece, and it looks really freaking awesome, man. It looks really freaking awesome. And that is because you guys are doing everything that I've taught you, and you're making your pieces look great, okay? So let's continue. Let's continue with this. I'm just going to kind of clean up these edges here. Going to refine the eyes. Refine the eyes, guys. That is rule number one, I would say, is that you want to make sure you get in there and don't lose. Refine the eyes, but don't lose the original character that was in them, okay? Now, I say this with like the utmost importance because the subtlety of your eyes is probably one of the most important things that I see a lot of artists kind of struggling with. Not necessarily like, well, not struggling with, but I feel like people just underestimate the eyes and the amount of importance that the eyes have, right? In terms of like conveying emotion and like allowing your character to feel like they have emotion and like show that, right? And that comes through refinement, and that comes from like properly understanding how eyes work. And I can't remember when's the last time I did a tutorial on eyes, but it's really important, okay, guys? So don't underestimate it. Don't underestimate. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and throw in a little bit of color at the bottom of these eyes, because you want to think about like the light from the sky, right? That blue light, since we're in shadow, that's the only light that's really going to be affecting these eyes. We don't want to go in there and like paint these things like bright pink, right? Because it's like, well, where is this light coming from? Where is it actually coming from? It looks a little off, right? But we add in a little bit of that blue. You can have a couple areas. Actually, I will say this. A really cool way to make your eyes look super shiny is you can add in a very hot highlight, but not along the iris, okay? Not along the iris. Do not gaze into this iris for too long, okay? You want to just make sure that it's nice and simple. That was a Zenyatta reference for anybody who understood that. Very obscure, but maybe somebody got it. I don't know. So yeah, just kind of cleaning up these eyes here. Let's go ahead and refine the edges here. That is looking awesome. That is looking awesome. Very good. Okay, guys, so there we go. See how now we have cleaned up the eyes. Those are looking grand. Those are looking grand and awesome. Both grand and awesome. Okay, so now let me show you guys a really cool trick for super shiny eyes. I don't know if I'm actually going to be using it here, maybe. But if there's a way that I can make it look simple. Now, here's the cool thing. Okay, so the eyes, even though there is no sunlight on them, right? Because I'm sure you guys have seen this trick all the time. It's like, hey, if you want to make eyes look really shiny, just put a little shine there, right? And that does look, actually, that looks okay. That actually looks okay. But it's not realistic, because where's the white light coming from? Where is it? How is that reflecting off of Mika's eye? It doesn't make sense, right? If anything, what you would do is you would take the light that is actually affecting them, which is this blue light, and you would add a blue shine. Ah, isn't that awesome? Now that actually looks a little bit more realistic. In fact, that's probably the one that we're going to end up going with. But let me show you another technique for shiny eyes. And that is, you want to think about the sky line. Okay, so do yourselves a favor and just paint the entire top of this eye, like slightly, like press lightly, and color it with the sky color. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to kind of erase it, right? So that way it's like in line with the actual eye. And notice how we kind of stopped midway. Now this midway point, this part in the middle, and I'm totally going off on a crazy tangent here, but this part in the middle basically represents our horizon, right? So you can imagine there's like castles in the distance, right? Castles in the distance. That's my awesome castle, right? Okay, and this is our horizon line. So basically anything below the horizon line is not, because you think about it, it's like, where's the light coming from? It's the sky, right? There's no light coming from the horizon and the castle. So, whoops. So let's go ahead and erase that and get back to where we were. And you can actually go in there and you can begin kind of cutting things out. So say there was a castle there. You can kind of like create the silhouette of a castle if you wanted to. But in general, I just like to add in a little bit of noise, right? Adding in a little bit of noise there really works out well. A little bit of noise in that area works out really well. And then do you notice what happened? Oh my gosh, now it looks like a super shiny eyeball. That looks like a super shiny eyeball. I love that. Oh, and also another thing I like to do is grab your soft brush and then kind of towards the edges, kind of like take it away a little bit. Take it away. Well, actually, no, that actually looks good without taking it away. Maybe, take it away from the top. There we go. Because you're going to have a little bit of that eyelash kind of covering that light. And look at that. Super shiny eyeballs. But that's probably not what we're going to end up doing. Probably going to end up doing just that regular one. That looks cool too. I don't know. Kind of torn. I'm honestly torn. Now I don't know what I want. Actually, you know what? Screw it. We're just going to do that. We're going to roll with that. All right. I do want to kind of clean this up though. Make it a little bit more of a design, rather, because I mean this. Let's be honest, this part looks like crap. Let's go ahead and kind of clean this up. Make this more of a design. There we go. Yeah, that looks awesome. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, super shiny eyeballs. All right, moving on. Let's go ahead and go to the edges of the armor because we have now done the face. In fact, actually, I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to Mocha's face because I'm clearly starting to realize that this may need a little bit more time to finish completely. And I don't want you guys to be bored. I don't want you guys to be completely bored. More than you are already. So we're going to go ahead and move on to Mocha. All right, cool. Let's move on to Mocha. Now let's go ahead and make a new OP layer because as I go, I don't just work with one OP layer. I like to work with 2 OP layers and 3 and 4 and all that good stuff, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and just begin taking these lines. Let's go ahead and begin cleaning them up. Cleaning up the lines. I really like these colors in here. I really want those colors to be retained. So let's not totally punch them out. Let's rather do this. Cool. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Add a little bit of that blue in there. A little bit of blue in there. Yeah, that looks so cool. Loving that. Loving that. So I think the key to this style is just allowing your strokes to kind of carry through. You want to allow your strokes to just carry through and just basically look like this, right? You want to see the stroke. You want to see the line. And I think that is what is really intriguing and exciting about this piece is that I can really see, like everything is just like a shape. It's like lots of shapes that are being put together. And it feels very fun. It feels very animated. It's just pleasing to look at. It's very aesthetically pleasing, if you will. And let's go ahead and darken this and this, right? Because we want a little bit more of that like upper eyelid showing. I'm gonna add in a little bit of red in here. I really like this band. I don't know why I actually draw this band across the face. It's totally animated to do this, but I like it, so I always do it. Truth be told, I always do it just because I like the way it looks. All right, let's go ahead and clean up this edge here. Let's clean up these lines because we know the importance. And we also know the importance of saving. Don't forget to save your pieces. Let's go ahead and determine what is actually happening here. What is actually going on here? Okay, let's go ahead and have that there. I really like this, like adding in a little bit of like red along this edge. It just looks really cool. And that's kind of the fun part of doing your line colors, guys, is that sometimes you'll have like weird little colors like mixed into your lines. And then normally you wouldn't think about that. It's like, oh, let's paint an eyelash, right? Well, let's do like a dark gray like we've been working with this whole time. No, but what if that lower eyelash actually had like red mixed into it? And then you add in that red and you're like, oh, wow, that looks really cool. I really like that little relationship that's kind of happening there. So you can call it a happy accident if you want. You know, I hate that term, but in general, right? Because I like to pretend that I always know what I'm doing, but in actuality, I mean, yeah, all right, fine. I admit it is a happy accident, right? You want to set yourself up so that way you can have some happy accidents. It pains me so hard to say that, but that's what good art is, right? It's like we all act like we know what we're doing, but actually we're just being creative. The best artists, I really feel, are the people that just know how, like they've gotten over their own egos and they have figured out the best way to allow their creativity to just flow, right? They've gotten to the point where they're comfortable with themselves, they're comfortable with their art, they know what they're good at, they know what they're not good at, and they're okay, they're open to learning, they're open to making mistakes, and they're open to making good mistakes, they're open to making happy accidents. So don't feel too bad, guys. Don't feel too bad if you feel like you don't know what you're doing, because in actuality, none of us really know what we're doing. We're all experimenting. We're all experimenting, and then what we do is we take the experiments that work well, and we put them on our art station. We put them on our DeviantArt for you to look at, and you're like, oh, wow, they're just such an amazing artist. But right, well, we don't show you all the other crap that we draw that looks like complete garbage, and we never show to anybody, stuff that we completely mess up on, and it's just like, that stuff never sees the light of day, right? We don't want people to think that we're imperfect, right? We're all perfect artists, we're all professionals, and we never make mistakes, okay? So, where was I going with that? Yeah, so don't feel too bad. Don't feel too bad if you're still in your learning stages, guys. Don't feel bad. Because Everybody's learning something. Everybody's learning something. And I am learning right now how to paint with this anime style, and it's so fun. It's so fun. Another cool little thing I'll show you guys is I really like it. Now, this is very subtle, but do you see how the gray at the edge of the shadow, do you see how the gray that's making up the line of the shadow is slightly darker than that? It's darker than that which is underneath it, right? So here's the line, and whatever's in here is actually a little bit lighter. I actually really like that a lot. Now, this comes from a style, I've seen it a lot in like Disgaea and like stuff like that art style. I think the artist name is, I have his book right here, Takehito Harada. I absolutely love this artist. I was actually just referencing this for this picture. In fact, you can probably see a lot of the influence of his work in here. Let me go ahead and show you. So yeah, here's his art book. He did stuff for Disgaea and a lot of other games, but I just absolutely love his style. It's so colorful, and here, let me show you. Like look at this. Look at this. Look at the lines and the colors, and just everything's like so bold and awesome, right? So I totally wanted to take some of this style and steal it for my own piece. And that's why I took that general style and I threw it into here. And now we're having a bit of that Takehito Harada style introduced to our work. And and one of those things is definitely that shadow type of thing, where the shadows are slightly darker, or the shadow lines sometimes are slightly darker than that which is underneath it, that which is below it, right? So basically like that. So you have like that sort of feeling going on right there. And I just love it. Love his art, man. Love his art. Ah, so good. So yeah. So we get influences for everywhere, guys. We're always stealing. We're stealing ideas. We're stealing ideas. We're stealing style. Nothing is original, really. So don't feel too bad. Don't feel too bad. Okay, cool, guys. So let's go ahead and take a look. Boom, boom. Looking good. Let's go ahead and refine the eyes. I feel like that's really going to help this piece out a lot. Now, another general rule is I like to have a nice darker shadow or a darker area towards the top of the eye, because that's where our cast shadow is happening. The cast shadow of the eyelash, right, going onto the eyeball. And notice how the eyeball itself is not white. It's not white. It's actually this dark blue or semi-medium colored blue, and that's because the sunlight is not affecting Mocha's face. The sunlight is affecting all of these pieces down here. But the ambient light or the skylight is what's affecting her face. So that's why a lot of these colors in here are very desaturated. Do you see how we're moving towards blue here and we're like desaturating? That is the skylight that is mixing with Mocha's skin color, and it is giving us a little bit more of a bluish hue, taking us more towards the blue land. Blue land, yes. That's what I just said. All right, cool. So I'm liking this, liking that. It's looking great. Let's go ahead and refine these edges. Where does this shoulder pad actually end and begin? Let us define that right now. Let us define that right here and now. There we go. Ah! That looks awesome. Looks so awesome. All right, guys. Yeah, so the way this is going, I can definitely tell this is going to take a little bit more time. So I'm probably going to end it in the next few minutes, but until that happens, let's just keep on chugging along, chipping away at this piece, because really it's just going to be more of the same at this point. I feel like I've taught you everything that you needed to hear. I taught you everything that you needed to hear, and I showed you everything that you wanted to see, that I do, in fact, paint my own drawings, paint my own paintings, paint my own... You know what I'm saying. And talking during a live painting, this is another reason why I don't do it as much, because talking during a live painting is actually very difficult. You're engaging not only your creative mind, problem-solving mind, but you're literally carrying on a conversation at the same time. And that is very hard. It can be very, very tough. But it is a fun skill to learn. I hope you guys are at least getting some enjoyment out of it. Some enjoyment out of watching me flap my gums and attempt to finish this piece. Ah! Dude, I just love Mocha's eyes. Aren't they just beautiful? Aren't they just awesome? I love these eyes so much. I just love this character. I love this character. You guys have been doing a lot of Mika fan art, but I would love to see some Mocha fan art. That would be so cool. That would just make my day. I mean, granted, Mocha is a brand new character, so I mean, I don't expect you guys to be like, oh yeah, like get right on it. But you know, I expect you guys to get right on it. You know, so yeah, do that. Let's go ahead and color in these lips. I want to add a little bit more color to these lips. Here's a good example of where we are modifying what is on the canvas. Add a little bit more red in there. Ah, that looks great. That looks so great. That is what we like to see. That is actually what we like to see. Add in a little bit more of this red up here. Yeah. Whoops, that was a little bit too dark. There we go. Okay, and really define the edge of that line. That looks awesome. I love it, love it, love it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, so see, there you go. On and off, on and off. Slight little changes. I actually like how before, oh, here's the other cool thing about doing an overpaint layer, is because inevitably you'll turn it on and off and you'll notice little changes. Like, say, the hairline up here kind of came up a little bit more. I kind of like that. Kind of bring that up a little bit more. Kind of follow that line. I know it's a subtlety. I know it's probably nobody would notice, nobody would care, but I do, right? I care. I care about the way it looks. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. And this just looks so cool. Loving this, man. This is actually like one of the pieces that I truly have had a lot of fun with, because even though you guys really enjoy like my finished like promo art and splash stuff, I am always just going to be an anime artist at heart. I'm a weeb at heart. I'm always going to be. And just doing this piece and like allowing my natural style to come out again is really just like a true, it's a pleasure. It's a true pleasure to be able to do this again. And I'm actually going to fix this. I wanted this area. I like this whole entire piece being blue. Yeah, that looks great. Because you guys know me, I've been doing, like, when I first started drawing, I mean, as soon as I found out what anime was, I was just completely enthralled by it. I loved the general style of it, and I just really wanted to be able to do something like that. In fact, the first anime that I ever saw was Ranma Half, and it was just so cool seeing something so new. It was just like the Japanese style of anime or animating is so much different than American style, and I just really enjoyed how it was like a lower frame rate, yet there was so much more like thought put into it. Like the characters moved so much more realistically and much more interestingly than American animes, right, or animations, where they have like high frame rates, but the characters just don't have as much life, right? Life is kind of missing from some of the characters, at least in the olden days. They've gotten a lot better at it now, but still, you just can't. It's hard to compare Japanese animation to American animation. So, but one of the things that I really liked about anime was mostly like just the character designs. I loved how simple they were. I loved how simple the characters were, yet they just evoked so much emotion. They evoked so much emotion. And that was something that I really wanted to study. So I did for many years, and I drew a lot of anime girls, which are in a portfolio that has been shown once and probably will never be shown again. I call it the portfolio of shame for a reason. Portfolio of learning, right? We'll call it portfolio of a lot of learning, a lot of studying. But yeah, that's another story for never. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to be winding down here. Oh, I'm actually getting a little tired. Wow. I'm not used to doing shows for this long. But you guys can see. I hope that watching me for an hour has opened your eyes. Has opened your eyes into my world, and you guys can now see the way that I like to go about doing this stuff. The way that I like to go about refining my pieces, getting them ready for the DeviantArt, getting them ready for the Patreon, and all that stuff. And if you guys are curious about getting this on Patreon, don't worry, because I'm going to upload this, and you can examine all these layers for yourself, but that's coming in a second, okay? Let's not get ahead of ourselves, okay? And now I'm just running away with it, right? Because now I can feel myself getting into the zone, which brings up a very important point. And this is actually going to segue really well into our, well, something we were talking about earlier is going to segue really well into our question. But the zone, okay? Actually, should I talk about this now? Yeah, let's talk about the zone real quick. Okay, so there's always going to be invariably a part in your piece where you're going to start kind of like settling into a point where you're just kind of like droning. You're not really like paying attention to what's going on, but you're just kind of rendering. I call it render monkey. And this is actually okay. I think this is fine for this stage of the piece. But you want to be very careful of falling into this state when you are trying to problem solve, like early on. Like I told you, I said this in the early stages of this piece when I was like laying out the perspective. In fact, let's see if we can go back to that. Do I have the old drawing here? Oh, I do. Yes. Dude, this is great. Okay, so let's go ahead and, let me duplicate this layer and let's talk about something. So early on, you guys know that this piece started like this. This is the original idea for the piece. Now, do you see how the camera angle is much more flat? It's kind of like straight on. Not really as interesting, but it involved Mika and Mocha, right? Mocha standing there and Mika kind of looking up in general, right? And I was like, that's kind of lame. Let's try something else. And then I did this. And I was getting into the zone late at night. It was after a big day. My energy was kind of low. I was trying to problem solve at this point. And it's just like, this is not the point when you want to be doing that, because you are just like, this is a good time to not be in the zone, right? You don't want to be in the zone when you're problem solving, because the danger is that you're not thinking anymore. You're just kind of like doing things, but you're just kind of like droning along. You're not taking a step back to look at the entire piece. And that's what you got to do. You got to get up from your chair. You got to zoom this thing out, right? Well, not literally, but you have to take a step back from the piece, walk away, and then you'll get the ideas that you need later on, right? Sometimes within just 5 minutes of getting up and walking away. And I can actually feel myself getting to that point right now with the piece in its current state. So let's see here. Yeah. What happened? There we go. I can actually feel myself going into the zone here. Now, it would be really easy for me to render out Mocha's face without consulting back to Mika. Now, because I want them to be very consistent in their style, okay? And for instance, one of the things that I really liked was adding in this punch color. Now, there's not any punch colors added on Mocha yet because we haven't gotten to like the crazy, I mean, you could technically like start adding it in over here, but we haven't gotten into the areas of high sunlight. But we could add it here. Let's go and add in a little punch color right there. Boom, yeah, that looks good. Yeah, just adding in little punch colors, I think really helps that stuff out, right? And that's something that came to my mind just by taking a moment to reassess the picture, okay? You don't always have to necessarily walk away. I highly suggest walking away from the piece. But yeah, then coming back in there and be like, oh yeah, I need to make sure I'm having those punch colors. Let's get in there and add those punch colors along those edges. But where was I going with that? Yeah, good things and bad things about the zone. Okay, that's what I wanted you guys to take away from that. Okay, cool. So I'm actually really liking this. This is going to be such a fun piece when I'm done with it. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I think, yeah, before we go into the question catapults, I will say, yes, Patreon. If you guys want to download this PSD, then just click up here. There's going to be a little icon thing that pops up right here. It'll take you over to Patreon where you can download this piece, as well as all the other pieces from the past. And you can dissect. You can take a look at these OP layers. You can turn them on and off. You can turn on and off the lines and see how we basically did everything up to this point. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and jump into our question catapults. I shan't mute myself. Never again since that fateful day. All right, awesome question coming in from Sing Create. True or false? Do some artists hate their own style? Sing Create is asking an awesome question over on the MZ, which you guys should totally get over to because we're going to be doing the actual launch, right? It's in the closed beta right now. And you guys need to get over there. And we're going to be doing the full launch probably in a few weeks. But Sing Create is asking, Sorry for the stupid question. That's so funny when you guys preface these things with like, sorry for the stupid question. It's not a stupid question. It's an awesome question. It's awesome enough for me to choose it. So yeah, you should feel good. Feel good. Be confident with your questions, guys. But Sang is asking, he says, I copy a lot of people's skills and techniques to create my own style, right? But he's not fully satisfied with his own style, with sketch and coloring. So he's asking, do some artists, are they unsatisfied with their style? Is there any effect of this feeling with a lack of motivation to continue their art? Okay, so Sang, before we move on, I just want to let you know that, yes, you're the only artist that has ever felt self-conscious about his art. You're the only artist that's ever considered quitting, and you should definitely get some help with that. I really feel for you. No, I'm just kidding. Of course I'm kidding. No, all artists feel this way. All artists take a look at their style and like, this sucks. This guy's way better. This person's way better. I'm just a hack. I'm just a copycat. It's like I'm doing everything that this guy does, but he's just better than me. I'm just not going to find my own place. No one's going to love me. And I'm just going to be a sad artist living on the side of the street doing chalk art or something like that. You know, it's like this is the story that goes through all of our heads, including mine. I look at my art sometimes and I'm like, what is my style? I have so many different things and it's like, and they're all just like stolen. This isn't even really my style. It's like, and you get down on yourself. And of course, it's going to affect your motivation. But what you need to understand, and that's why I kind of went into what I said earlier saying, is that, look, I stole this style from Takehito Harada and many other people, right? I stole like the idea for like the colors and like the bold lines and stuff like that. It's like you always get inspired by other people. And taking all of those influences and kind of mashing them together and then calling that your art or your style is not a bad thing. And it's okay for you to look at something and want to improve it, because that's the other thing. You're always going to look at your art and be like, I feel like this could have been improved. I feel like I could add more emotion in the face. I could tell more story. And in fact, that's one of the biggest things that I wanted to do here. Is I love having images with like more than one character, and they're like looking somewhere, like they're looking at something. What are they looking at? What is Mika holding in her hand there? Why is it a soda bottle? And they're like in medieval times. And it's like there's like story to be had there, story to be kind of like gleaned from that. And that's something that I wanted to do with this piece, but that was a total tangent. The point is that there's always going to be things that you can improve on with your art, and that is okay. But don't worry so much about that lack of motivation, because that's always going to be there. The trick really comes from learning how to expect it, not learning how to destroy it or remove it from your life. It's not a bad thing, but understand that it's going to be something that occurs. It's going to be something that is there. And once you understand that there's sort of a pattern, or once you learn to expect it and learn to deal with it, then it loses its power. It loses its power, and you're like, oh, it's this thing again. Oh yeah, I remember I had this feeling probably about maybe 3 weeks ago, or maybe yesterday, right? It's like, just learn to kind of live with it, because I got news for you. It's not going anywhere. That feeling that you thinking that you suck and you're inadequate and that everybody else is better than you, nobody loves you, that feeling is never going to go away, especially as an artist, right? You're going to be super self-conscious about yourself all the time, right? The key is learning how to deal with it and learning to expect it. And when you do that, it loses a lot of its power. So, Sang, I hope that helps you out. Before we go, I need to say thank you to my amazing sponsors, Laura Bashir, David Chiariello, and Megan Gwynn. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring the show. Not be the same without you guys. Not be the same without you. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and end today's show. I hope you guys enjoyed this two-parter. I mean, that's freaking crazy. We did like a freaking hour-long daily, and you guys deserve it, right? Because you guys have been asking for a long time for me to do more real-time stuff, and I really wanted to do this for you. And I'm actually really happy with the results that we got. Really, really happy. Once again, if you want to get the PSD, just click up here. Click up there. Go get it. And thank you guys so much for the support. I really do appreciate you guys supporting the channel. Not just monetarily on Patreon, but also telling your friends about it. Really, really appreciate that, you guys. And I'm happy that you guys are learning. That's my main reason for being here. I love teaching you guys. I love speaking. I love building my public speaking skills. I love building that part of my brain where it's like drawing on one side and then carrying on a conversation on the other. I like that stuff. And I'm going to keep doing it for as long as possible, as long as I physically can, which is probably going to be a long time. So hope you guys are okay with sticking in for the long haul. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So you guys take care of yourselves. You have a great rest of the week. I will see you next week. And until then, you guys take care. See ya.